This morning, we are exploring the complicated journey through grief and loss, and we're looking at it from an author who is living through the loss of two important people in her life and has written about it. In 2016, just before dawn, Liz Levine's younger sister, Tamara, emails a suicide note to her family. Her death and the death of Levine's dear friend from cancer are outlined in the pages of Nobody Ever Talks About Anything But the End. Liz Levine is here with us this morning. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
You know, the day after Bell Let's Talk Day is a great day to have you here because you do an incredible job in this book of encapsulating what has come out of some of this conversation, which is that issues around mental health, including suicide, are treated very differently than other illnesses like cancer. Talk to us about those parallels that you discovered in the writing of this book.
You know, for me, a lot of it was about language. Cancer is stage 1 or stage 4. It's metastasized. It's colon. It is all these very definable things on a spectrum. And mental health right now is a very big bucket. And that includes everyone from I suffer from depression and insomnia to I'm ready to take my own life or I'm having real paranoid delusions, an extreme. So for me, breaking down the language is really the place that we can start to have a real conversation about mental health.
It also helps not only the public sort of navigate the system, but also healthcare as well, to be able to prioritize funds and prioritize care.
Absolutely.
You use the device of humor throughout your book. You say that it makes some people feel really uncomfortable. Why was it comfortable for you?
It's always been comfortable for me. I think the opposite of pain is joy, and laughter is something that's deeply healing. Grief is like being held underwater, and laughter is like coming up for air, so they belong together. When
you first realized that you could laugh about it, how did you feel?
Excellent. And I first realized it through my mother, actually, for whom this has been a very painful process. But when I laughed and felt uncomfortable, I turned to her and sort of asked. And she told me that when her father had passed away in Florida and his body had been shipped home, that the coroner's office called her to say he's arrived home in his pajamas. And she hung up the phone and laughed and laughed and laughed. And with that, I got permission to do the same.
And permission is sometimes what people need, which is what you're offering in this book as well. Your sister was in the system. Tamara was in the system, you know, active family, wanting to get care, recognizing signs. But your dad said it was the cure that killed her. Explain that.
My sister was in and out of the system for years, and she didn't have a single healthcare practitioner dedicated to only her. She was also smart, well-educated, independent, and savvy. And as people began to sort of come around her and assign meds and group therapy, and she could work her way between the professional caretakers to create her own line, which for her was about a line to her death.
You describe yourself as a death detective in this book. What did you learn?
I learned a lot about my own relationship with my sister. I think without the language to understand mental health, it's hard to understand the people who are struggling, especially in as extreme a situation as it was with Tamara. And backing up and researching and understanding really what paranoid delusions are and what psychosis is began to help me understand who she was, and maybe that her agenda was actually a lot more positive than it came off to us so much of the time.
There are, as we've discovered in Bell Let's Talk, and just people even reaching out yesterday, a lot of families who are in the position right now, who are living with a family member who is dealing with a mental illness and a struggle. What would you say to them?
I would say have patience, and I mean that in both directions. Have patience with the individual that's ill, but also have patience with yourself. The recognition that you can't be patient all the time, that this behavior is challenging, and maybe trade off care with a tight group of people that you trust and give yourself the space to know that this is hard for you too as a caretaker.
Liz Levine, what I love about the book called Nobody Talks About Anything But the End is that you are not a healthcare professional. You are a family member who had two great heavy losses, and you've written about it with humor and with honesty. And thank you for the book.
Thank you.
The book, as a reminder, is called Nobody Ever Talks About Anything But the End. Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here.
And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.